side, you know, or look as good. And cars apparently the same way, or at least Selena was. The driver's side was a nightmare to do. Everything always was more complicated on that side. The passenger side did a little better. Roll-on paint is a lot easier than spraying. If I would have known that, I would have done the primer as rolling on too. And I really wish they would come out with a roll-on clear coat. That would be great. Unfortunately, clear coat doesn't come in roll-on, it's only spray. But definitely a lot easier, and you can get more accomplished. I was able to paint the whole car when I did roll-on in one day, whereas when I'm spray painting, I had to you know, break the car up. I mean, not only because you have to paper more, you have to paper a lot more when you spray paint, because spray paint is not as easily to control. So it's just necessary to break the car up. It's very hard to do the whole car with spray painting, but your fingers are going to get tired, you know, because, you know, keeping that little thing down, the little, you know, nozzle down, you know, that really is tiring. And I've noticed, like with the Rust-Oleum clans, that as the can gets empty, there seems to be more resistance against the nozzle, so you have to put more pressure to finish. Or to get the stuff out. So if you're going to do this, I really recommend doing roll-on. You know, a lot of people, I was afraid to do roll-on at first because they were talking about, you know, it's easy to develop air bubbles and all that. I don't know, maybe it's more of a problem in other states, and that's another thing you guys have to remember. You know, I'm in a hotter climate. You know, paint is going to react differently. Your car's probably going to react differently if you live in a different climate than I do. If you're in the up north in a colder climate, maybe you're not gotten as much humidity. You know, everything will react differently with you. So, and maybe some of them, they do have more air bubbles. I didn't really find air bubbles were really a problem. When I was doing it. But roll-on was definitely, I wish I would have done roll-on a lot earlier, of course, and you get better. I thought the car looked a lot better. It was more even. You didn't have as many streaks. So it had a better, you know, a better result. The clear coat, if you decide to do it, is a total pain. As I said, even pros have complained about the clear coat. So even if pros are claiming that it streaks and drips and it's practically impossible, then the stuff must be difficult. Now, you know I'm not, you know, I'm a beginner, so, you know, my skill's not at the level they are, but if the pros are saying it's awful, then we have to accept that the clear coat is awful. So then you're going to have to ask yourself, do I want to do the clear coat? Now, if you're only going to keep your car maybe another 2 or 3 years, of course, it depends on where you live and how hard your environment is on your car. It may not be necessary to do a clear coat. You can paint your car. You can't polish it if you don't put a clear coat. But a lot of times, like my mom actually did put some paint on Selena, sprayed some paint on Selena without sanding, and it did last a couple of years before it started chipping. So if you only are going to keep your car for another 2 or 3 years, maybe doing the clear coat, you don't need to do it, you know. But the advantage to the clear coat is that you can, you know, polish your car if you want to. So, and it gives it more a protection, which is why I wanted to do it. But the clear coat is just a nightmare to put on. As I said, it's like spraying on that clear nail polish. Again, guys may not be able to relate to that, you know, but anybody who's seen clear nail polish, you know how thick it is. It is exactly like that. It's like spraying clear nail polish on your car. It's a nightmare. Be careful if you use 1,000 grit sandpaper. Particularly if you're doing it to sand the clear coat. What I found with the clear coat is that when you're sanding it, it breaks off. It has these little, like almost glass-like shards. And it was particularly easy to adhere to the 1,000 grit sandpaper, and it caused scratching. I don't know if 1,000 grit sandpaper is actually that bad, but it seems a lot more delicate and easier for things to adhere to. I didn't quite have the same problem with other grits of sandpaper. So, you know, be careful. You know, I did cause some scratching on Selena with the 1,000 grit sandpaper. Know your products. We learned that kind of like with the Megulars. Megulars was actually meant for cars with acrylic paint. I was using an oil-based paint. It kind of produced some results I didn't like. There's a lot of things that might be good to check up on if you can beforehand. And probably if you paint your car, it's definitely when you're using a new product on it, you may definitely want to spot check. I have to admit, I used to never spot check, but I probably will from now on because, you know, I've put on different type of paint, and I'm assuming probably a lot of polishes are meant for acrylic paint, which most cars, new cars use. We've got an oil-based paint now, so you know, whatever product you use, you don't have to paint your car with oil base, by the way. You can, you know, you can find acrylic. But that is the important thing. Make sure that the products you use are compatible with what the paint you're going to be using. Now this is an important thing I want you guys to know. I'm not actually even showing you Selena totally because Selena's dirty at the moment. When I do my before and after video, I'm going to wash her, and then you'll be able to see all her flaws. Right now, as you can, well, I don't know if you can see it or not, Selena's covered in dust. And when Selena's covered in dust, you can't always see all her streaks. But if I was showing you guys in an overcast sky or in the shade what Selena looked like, she would look a lot, I would be giving you the false impression that I did a lot better of a job than I actually did. And this is why. Overcast skies and shade tends to hide things like streaks and drips, okay? And that's a lot of things. You see a lot of videos on YouTube. Now, in all fairness, I'm not going to accuse anybody of purposely trying to deceive people. When you read things, they tell you, like when the clear coat, they say, for best results, do this in the shade. And the paint does react a little better. Well, it drips, but it does react a little better, I find, in the shade than it does in the heat. And of course, if you have a garage, you're going to probably work in your garage, you know. So I'm not going to accuse these people of, you know, intentionally trying to deceive. But when you see a lot of these videos on YouTube, a lot of them are showing you these cars in the shade. And the thing is that the shade hides, maybe they did make mistakes, but it's not going to show up. Now as I said, Selena's dirty at the moment, and actually part of her is in the shade because we're later in the day now, so I'm actually not showing you in full light. But when I do the before after videos, I do intend to show you what she looks like in full-fledged light. And really, I mean, there's enough light for you to see some of her flaws, though as I said, she is dirty, and dirt also covers the flaws. In full, you know, full sunlight will reveal pretty much all will make flaws more noticeable. So that's one thing to always consider if you're watching YouTube videos. Things may not actually look as good as things may not actually look as good in real life as they do on the video. If they're, so. One of the things you might consider, if you plan to paint your car, there's a lot of things you're going to want to consider. Your finances, just how much energy you really have. Are you willing to complete what you finish? There's tons of things you have to think about. How long you're planning on keeping your car, how vain you are about your car, all these things you need to take into consideration. Another thing you need to think about is, as I've mentioned also, you are going to possibly get unwanted attention if you do this type of thing. Now, I don't know if everybody has that problem, I'm always very good at getting attention, usually because I don't want it, I think. But, there's going to be people, people might come up to you and want to talk about your car. You might, and I don't know, we have been a little more concerned because we've been noticing that sometimes we have people kind of what looks like casing Selena, so we've been more worried that she's more likely to get stolen now, oddly enough. I don't know if the people are just examining the paint job, but sometimes they seem to be taking more interest than what that seems to warrant. So, that's the thing, are you willing to, when you go to the laundry, possibly have your laundry guy say, "Oh, you're doing that incorrectly," and particularly if you're a chick, they're going to be more willing to critique you, my mom sometimes found it very hard to leave work because, people were standing around Selena and talking about her, and so, you get sometimes maybe attention you don't want. So, that's one thing to think about.